Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Speed Gaming, and welcome to the Secret of Mana Open World Randomizer Showcase. My name is Bowie the Hero. I am joined by the one and only Yagamoth. Yaga is
welcome.
He's the Lord of Mana, I dare say. He is. He knows everything about this game. I'm also somewhat knowledgeable about the game. So the open world, we'll quickly just go through the basics of the open world and all that kind of stuff before the race starts, so you kind of know what's going to happen. The open world, basically, the rando, as you expect, it makes the game open world. The players have access to Flammy from the beginning of the game. They'll have access to the first weapon, and then they can just go...
Bowie, real quick. Your voice is pretty difficult to hear right now. Sorry.
My voice is difficult to hear.
Yeah, because of the internet issues or whatever it is.
I don't know.
Okay, it sounds good now. Continue, sorry.
It sounds good now? Okay, sure. Great. Well, to go over that again, everyone has access to Flammy from the beginning. They will start at the beginning cutscene, which is all of the cutscenes have been taken out, but they'll start at the beginning when they fall down the waterfall. They'll grab their first weapon, and then they can go wherever they want. Checks come in two ways. There will be chests around the world, and there will also be bosses that can drop 1 or 2 items. So that's the basics, and we'll evolve it as we go. What our players are going to be playing today is what's called a vanilla long restrictive seed. So this is a big project that was created by Moppleton, a member of the Mana community. He's been working on it for many, many years with an ancient cave hack back in the day, a boss rush, a vanilla randomizer, and now an open world randomizer as well. So what vanilla long restrictive means is that vanilla long is that the idea is to defeat the Mana Beast by going through the Mana Fortress, and in order to have access to the Mana Fortress, our players must complete the Grand Palette, and that requires them to get seven of the elemental spirits, all of them except for Dryad, and they need to have access to either the sword or the axe and the whip. Those are the requirements for go mode in these kinds of seeds. And restrictive means that the elemental palaces can only give up their rewards when our players have the mana seeds for that corresponding palace. So if you have a look on the trackers, you've got the 8 weapons, the 8 spirits, the 8 seeds, and then all the other key items. And where we are off. Yaga, take it away.
Alrighty, so welcome everybody. So worth noting that they are operating under the glitchless rule set, which means that they try to not abuse any of the glitches, like the money glitch or like the experience glitch. There's a lot of glitches in this game. So basically, they're just going to try and play this as glitchless as it gets. And also worth noting is that the weapon they get at the beginning here is completely random. In this case, they get the javelin. And also all the weapons do have a variety of different modifiers to them. This is also unique to Randomizer, where it will just give you a potentially completely bastardly broken and great weapon. However, it could also just be, well, your average weapon. The Randomizer introduces a number of different things. Also, you see here Surface just talking to the old man. He gives actually a hint, and the Mitch Mallet is in a chest. So hints are in this game in order to basically guide the players a little bit more, well, streamlined, so to speak. The shops, of course, are also randomized, as are the enemies overall. The location of the boomerang is in a chest, is what we just saw as a hint. So there's a number of quality of life features in this randomizer, as you might also already expect, such as you are allowed to move away from your allies once you get allies, but, well, you have to find them first. Also, SolarCell is already engaging in the first battle against a boss here. In this case, it's Beta Cybermax. That is the second mech rider that is in the game. And the interesting thing about this guy is he is trying to just normally use spells as a counterattack, but if he already has a buff on himself, he no longer will use a spell, instead he will try to just use those little rockets. But once he is out of magic, you can just safely attack him from a distance, and he's not going to do anything anymore.
It'll make for a nice quick kill there for SolarCell, so he's going to be going for that early check, he'll probably grab the chest as well, unless he already hasn't. Already has. I've reset my audio, so hopefully everything's better. But yeah, he'll get that kill and get the check. Surface opting for a bit of a different play. He's doing a lot more exploration, checking these hints. So throughout the seed, things like certain particular NPCs and signs get changed into hints that will give you ideas about where things could be. So as you can see that we only have one character. The characters are not where they normally are in the vanilla game. You can't just go to Pandora and get the girl from there. You can't just go to the dwarf village and get the sprite from there. They are going to be in checks. So solarcell will get a fight done. He'll get some level ups. It should be noted that the way that the scaling in this randomizer works is that we have what's set to match player. That means that as the players get stronger, the enemies and the bosses will increase in strength as well, so that you don't have the case of getting completely bodied by the scaling being too strong. So that kind of allows our players to make consistent progress. Well, what's great about the randomizer and the options allowed is that there's so much you can do to kind of like create specific flags. Things like you can have it scaling to every time you clear a boss, it scales. Or you can have it set to time, so the longer you take, the stronger they get, which is kind of like a bit more speedy. You have to be really fast in doing things, or you're going to get overwhelmed. So it's an interesting way that our players can create seeds. But for this, they're matching the player.
Indeed. We also just saw a hint earlier on solarcell's side that the whip is in the Empire somewhere. And as we mentioned earlier, whip is one of the required items in order to be able to beat the game. And so they will probably want to check out the Empire sometime, whenever that might be. One of the earliest things I would like to add, when I tried out the open world randomizer a bit, one of the most important things was to find one of the companions sometime. Because the boy, while he has, well, a decent physical attack power, well, the spells are really, really good for the other two characters, so you may want to just check those out sooner rather than later. Also, another thing worth noting is that there's a bunch of key items that you see at the bottom of the trackers. The far left one at the bottom left is the sea hair tail on each of the players' screens. That is normally the item that allows you to get the mogul belt from the desert, and it's effectively a fetch quest, if you will.
So a thing that's interesting for our players to do is, it should be noted as well, we have double experience and double GP on, so we can make good progress in levels and keep our money reserves up. You'll notice that every single weapon has orbs you can get to make them stronger. This is the kind of whole way that the relationship between the player and weapon works in Secret of Mana, is that as you get orbs, they get stronger, then you use them to gain their skills. So what our players have to kind of do is see like what weapons are good and what weapons they want to focus all of their money into, because you're not going to be able to buy all of the armor you want as well as all of the weapon upgrades you want as well. So it's one of those things where it's kind of, you need to balance and strategize your spending to be able to have the best opportunity. Should be noted there that Surface not only has the Wind Seed but the Fire Seed as well. This means that he can go to the Fire Palace and the Wind Palace, clear the boss and get the check at the end as well. So it makes you, so you might want to put off certain checks in the game until you have the corresponding seed. Again, this is the restrictive element. You can't get those checks until you have the seed. The seeds also allow your magic strength to advance. The more seeds you have, the higher cap your magic level can get to. If you have one seed, you can cap at level 1. If you have 2 seeds, you can cap at level 2. And the level of magic increases the damage dealt.
Indeed. It also overall increases your physical damage as well. So each individual seed basically just makes you overall a bit stronger, as well as unlocking new items in certain places. So they are very handy to find.
So when it comes to shops, what is in the shop is randomized. The price, however, is set to the normal price of those things. So, for example, you're going to have your wishing cups are still going to be 150 GP, unless you're at Neko's, and because he's a shrewd businessman, they're going to cost 300. Whenever you see Neko, his costs are double the price of regular. So, yeah.
Indeed. So recently spotted in the volcano is Salamander. Salamander is the fire elemental spirit that allows you to cast fire-based spells. So if they want to cast fire-based spells, they need to go into the volcano, which is, by the way, the Pure Lands, since it's kind of looking like a volcano.
Yeah, so What's a key, if you're playing this for the first time, you know Secret of Mana quite well. A key thing to note about being able to progress in this randomizer is that you when it comes to match player level in terms of scaling, you're never actually locked out of anywhere as long as you have the items to clear it. So if you need a place that needs the axe and the whip, it doesn't matter what level you are or what you have, because of the scaling of the difficulty, you can always go and check it. So if you have access to the sword, you can cut through majority of what the Pure Lands has. You can go there at level 1 because you can. It's not always recommended because, again, we should note that the bosses are randomized now, obviously, but what that means is there's a difference between randomizing and swapping it. Swapping it is the usual that you see. There's a massive pool of enemies and they get put in random spaces. But in this randomizer, that's swapping. For random, it means that any boss can be anywhere as many times as they want. So you might see duplicates of a particular boss, which can be tricky if you're at this point where the enemies are quite strong and you have a very aggressive boss, but you don't have like multiple characters to play with. Because the more characters you have, the actual easier this rando is. Playing with one character is hard when you have an aggressive enemy that uses magic and stun locks you.
Indeed. Also worth noting that gaining levels is not necessarily inherently better for you because the enemies and bosses scale as well, and their stats might scale just a bit faster than yours do, so like grinding you mainly want to do for money, if anything.
Yeah. And a reminder, if you are just joining us as well, that this is a Secret of Mana open world randomizer. We're doing what's called a vanilla long restrictive seed, and that means that the goal is the vanilla goal. Defeat the mana beast to win the game, and the long version means that we have to get into the mana fortress, but that does not unlock until our players defeat the Grand Palace. In order to defeat the Grand Palace, you need to have 7 of the elemental spirits. That's all of them except for Dryad. They also need either the axe or the sword and the whip to get through those final two dungeons as well. So go mode is all the spirits bar Dryad, axe or sword, and whip.
Indeed. On surface side, we see that the Darkstalker has been replaced by a really annoying little turtle that cannot be heard while it is in its shell. And, well, you need to go close in order for it to come out so you can hear it, but you also don't want to stay too close, otherwise you get knocked down. So it's kind of awkward to try and deal with this thing right now.
So there was a note there. There's a very specific item where the mogul belt usually is. So if you know where the mogul belt is, you can go and do that. Now it should be noted when it comes to routing this as well, checks that are free that don't require a fight are usually going to be very important. So Solar Cell here, jumping over to the right side of the Empire to grab these 2 chests is a nice pick. Another very good early one, if it's possible, is the ruins in Pandora. When you complete the Pandoran ruins, you have access to the treasury in Pandora Castle, which is 6 chests. So being able to clear that one early is a good shout. Now, our players do want to do some checks like that and bosses. They don't want to do too many because they don't want to find themselves up against a boss they can't do without that second character. Finding a second character early is a really nice boon. Because not only do they come with the character, of course, but they also come with one of the 8 weapons. And that could be the weapon you're missing.
Indeed. Right now they have neither an axe nor a sword, so there's basically just certain bushes they literally can't get through right now.
Yeah. Although Solar Cell does have the whip, which does allow him some nice range, really good. I love the whip, fantastic weapon. But again, that's one of the key items that we need to complete.
Yes, the whip, for anybody who may not be familiar with the game, allows you to cross gaps in certain spots via the rope pulls. Like, it's basically you just use the whip to jump over the gap.
So you'll notice as well that some bosses in particular will give you 2 items. Oh, it's Hexus for Surface. This isn't so bad, really, because at a low level, even though there's magic, Hexus has very low MP, so it can easily run out of MP, and then you just can fit, and then Hexus is free. Having Hexus at high level is tough, but low level, not so bad.
Indeed. Hexus also is one of the weirdly special bosses, which, if you know how to manipulate her, it's actually significantly less bad than it otherwise could be. For example, Surface has her in her neutral mode. If you go to the far top left, she switches to various types of magic modes, and if she's out of magic, in the magic modes she can only cast magic, so she effectively is completely harmless at that point. But he just kind of, well, knocked her down without any trouble anyways.
Also, you might notice the music's all different. That's a really, really cool thing that Moppleton has done. Again, Moppleton is the developer. He's in chat if you have any questions that we don't specifically answer immediately. First of all, thank you to Moppleton for making this great thing. Also, shout outs to our tracker, Menblock, who is tracking for the race right now, and is also the developer of the Rando tracker as well. So thank you very much to them for that. We've got so almost vanilla. We've got Boreal Face in the Tropicalo section.
Yes, it's kind of French vanilla, I guess. Boreal Face does have a few more tricks up his sleeves than Tropicalo, but at the same time, it mostly plays out the same. Also, you may notice the arena here, where you normally fight Tropicalo, is a bit adjusted. It does not normally look, well, exactly like this. There's a lot of like stones and blocks missing. This is in case there's like a Minotaur or something like that here, where you may want to be able to get close and actually hit the boss, so you can actually fight it. Also, so the boss has a fighting chance against you, I suppose.
Yes. We got some information from SolarCell's side as well that behind the Undyne Orb is Shade Magic. So we need to clear the Water Palace. The Water Seed is now required because behind it is Shade Magic.
Ah, I see. That's interesting.
Yeah. Also to note as well, I was going to say one of the things that Moppleton did is he has been like adding music from other popular RPGs on the system into the game, as you can hear, lovingly remade in the Secret of Mana sound font as well. So some might sound kind of weird, some work perfectly, but it's nice for him to kind of like do that to transpose it into the sound font.
Indeed.
Sorry.
All right. Something you may notice is certain bosses do have defense, others do not. So, for example, the early game bosses such as Mantis and Tropicalo, Spiky Tiger, and a few other ones of the early ones, they do actually have 0 defense. However, Boreal Face does have defense. So the way this is done in Randomizer is that they are just given a scaling amount of stats. So they have like an entire list of which stats they have at which level, so to speak. And because Boreal Face has a bit of defense, SIRFACE is actually doing kind of not a whole lot of damage against it, even though normally against Tropicalo he would do quite a lot. Also, he just went in there to check the orb. The orb is activated by a specific element, and in this case we saw, I think it's Salamando magic in order to unlock the Earth Temple there.
Yes, it was, yeah. So this is again another reason why we want to get the other characters. So Sprite and the girl are both mandatory, because in order to clear the Grand Palace and also to get through certain checks, magic spells are required. The hero cannot use magic. That's kind of his like boon. His bane is that he's the true wielder of the Mana Sword, but he can't use magic. But he's obviously really good at physical fighting. So we need to grab the girl and Sprite in order to be able to cast magic to clear those specific checks, because those crystals I think there's one for each of the 7 elements that we need to collect in the Grand Palace. And in terms of spells, the Sprite is the offensive magic user. He has offensive magic for everything he does. The girl is a more defensive magic user. However, she does have offensive spells on Salamando and on Lumina. Lumina is the light elemental, and only the girl can use Lumina, and only the Sprite can use Shade. Just things to note.
Yes, basically dark and light elements are opposing and only have one character. So SIRFACE just went over to grab the magic rope, which, by the way, the magic rope chest, which normally contains the magic rope in the original game. The magic rope, it has been a bit remodeled and retooled. The original way how it works is basically it brings you back to an entrance to where you entered an area from. However, that actually can lead to some weirdness where you are getting sent back to the balcony of, for example, the ruins in the North Town. And instead of doing that, Moppleton has redone the magic rope workings, and it will now bring you back to set positions in the areas, which is significantly more usable, and also they are using that in a variety of ways in order to, speed up their progress.
Yeah. If you have a look at the difference in their levels right now, you can see that SIRFACE is doing a little bit more boss killing in the early game. SolarCell's been doing a lot more reconnaissance, running around and checking things and getting some information, and then using that, probably taking notes as well, so that you can use that to his advantage later on.
Indeed.
Didn't get some
Also,
decent ones, though.
okay. One thing worth noting is that I believe Surface now has a full set of equipment. What that means is that he has something equipped in every single item slot as an equipment slot, which actually makes a huge difference compared to just having nothing equipped in one of the equipment slots. In short, you take a lot more damage. It's not exactly how it works, but that's just how the result usually anyways. Also, Surface is going for wall face here, so that's what you mentioned earlier, Borby.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been going for these bosses, and again, down here, when you defeat the Pandora Ruins, you get access to 6 items in Pandora Castle. And there's also the girl check as well, because normally you'd meet the girl there, she counts as a check. So that's 7 items upon entering Pandora Castle. So you can see Surface is doing a good job of avoiding these vines and going after... this is Tropicalo, who we saw somewhat earlier in his cousin in Boreal Face as SolarCell takes down Hexus. Now again, because this is not swap, this is random boss locations, these bosses can appear again in a stronger, more difficult form. And again, the map that we're on does matter. Do note that some bosses can't go on, find it harder to go on certain screens sometimes. So just based on like how they're built and how they're meant to operate on their maps.
Indeed. So, for example, for quite a while, if a map is filled with water, for example, in Hydra's spot or also in Jabberwocky's spot, certain bosses are just locked into place, so they're not exactly functional over there. Also, Surface just took 0 damage from this boss whatsoever because he has enough defense to just nullify the damage, which is quite convenient, but it might not stay that way for too long.
No, if I'm, you feel, please correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't know the exactness of this claim, but damage formula in this is similar to actually the first Seiken game, where it's not multiplicative, it's additive. So whatever damage they would do minus your defense is the damage that they will deal to you. Obviously, there's a damage roll. They normally have like 1 higher, 1 lower roll. But if you just take away your defense, if that is 0, you'll just see the defense animation. We had a slight moment there for SolarCell having to reset. Do not worry about it. There is an autosave function in this game. So if you anything happens, normally it autosaves on screen transition. So not too much of an issue there for SolarCell.
Indeed.
For the first time I've seen that, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that was an accident or not.
Oh, maybe. Was it a reset on his part because he didn't
I think
do the
it was
fight?
an accidental reset, from what I can tell, because he's just going back in right here.
Sure.
Also, SolarCell is now checking the weapon. Earth damage, on the thing, and confuse, intelligence, wisdom. So, as mentioned before, the weapons are randomized, and they also have stats on them that they would not normally have. In fact, they have a pretty significantly impactful stats on top of them. On top of them being, well, already certain different types of weapons that allow you to shoot enemies at different ways. For example, the javelin they picked up so far is the Elf Harpoon, which gives you intelligence and wisdom, which is the spellcasting stats for the Lady and the Sprite, which means they will actually deal significantly more damage because it's actually plus 10. There's nothing in the vanilla game that gives you plus 10 normally, so that is a huge boost to damage output for spells.
Also nice that Surface just got the gold key, and this means he can access the gold tower in Gold Town, which is the Light Palace. Probably will maybe hold back on doing that until they get the light or the light seed. Maybe they might want to go and do it early because it is 4 checks anyway. So they do have that item. But yeah, also to note as well that checking these items or checking your weapons regularly, if you have like multiple orbs to upgrade a weapon, you may not want to go from 1 to 5 immediately because you might find that along the way you get a stat boost like that, like plus 10 to strength at an early level is better than leveling up again because the strength boost is so good. And it may only be worthwhile upgrading further if you have a lot to go, so you can make up the difference. But yeah.
Yeah. Another thing worth noting, just as a basic mechanic, you see the cactus just walk around slowly sometimes, and their bar filling at the bottom. That is when they charge up their weapon. Each weapon level they charge up, they need to first, level up their weapons by defeating enemies, and the weapon experience they gain is boosted in the randomizer, so it's not taking as long in order to level up the weapons to a higher level and be able to charge them up. That's for one. And for two, each charge level increases your damage output by 50%, and for ranged weapons, it usually even increases your range. And some weapons, like the boomerang, even have some special properties where you can possibly hit twice with it. The boomerang, in my opinion, is one of the best weapons overall that you can get or use overall.
Yeah. We haven't been able to talk about it just yet, so I'll hold off on it. But Magic has had a nice little change in a variety of ways. When we first get access to another character, so if you see Surface has Sylphid. I was going to say Slyphid there because I've always called it Slyphid since I was a kid, but it's Sylphid. He has access to Sylphid magic, so when he gets the sprite, they will have access to some magic. And we can talk about the differences there, but there's been some major quality of life changes in terms of visuals and actually how they operate, specifically things like speed up well, yeah, speed up is a good one. I think basically is like the big one that our players are looking for, and we'll describe why when it happens.
Yep. Also, something I forgot to mention earlier, Surface actually picked up the axe from the castle, so he can now cut through both grass as well as various types of rocks. For example, in order to complete the Shadow Temple, they would need the axe to cut through the rocks. Well, without glitches anyways. So he now can do that.
Yeah.
Also, finding the orbs for the various weapons does not automatically make your weapon stronger. You also have to upgrade it at the weapon shop first, at Watts, as what we mentioned.
Yeah, so Watts is one of the dwarves. The big skull on the head is not his face. That's a big skull that he's wearing on his face. You can see his eyes underneath it, just glowing in the darkness, as you know all dwarves do. It costs 200, 400, 800, etc., etc., etc. It increases as you do those upgrades. So again, this is where the money routing comes in. How much do you want to spend on something? So they'll get the upgrade for the whip there. Nebula now unlocked for Solar Cell. He may look at these stats, may not, depends on what he wants to do. But
yeah,
sometimes it's important to look at it.
Yeah, a lot of the weapons, their name already implies what they do, so he might already know what the weapon does. In this case, well, I don't. But the Elf Harpoon always gives you intelligence, wisdom.
Yes.
Nebula, no idea.
I have found as well that when I've been playing Seeds, there are these patterns that tend to happen quite consistently as well. Like, if I'm finding there is strength a lot, or if I have strength, then I'll maybe have strength for a lot of things. And if there's like fire element being attached to a weapon, that I'll have that for like very, very quickly. I was playing a Seed very, very recently. I just got this string of patterns of just everything being similar, or having like this one asset that would be, you know, always there, which I found kind of interesting as well, because then it allows you to kind of work with hitting specific weaknesses, and also understanding when a weapon or a weapon type isn't going to be working well, and then steering clear of it, basically.
Yep, such as Surface right now switched weapon because the Javelin was dealing very little damage. The wall face here is actually wind element, so Sylphid weapons would deal significantly less damage. That's, by the way, another thing of the randomizer. It fixes a lot of bugs and introduces a lot of quality of life changes.
Yes.
So elemental weapons in the original game don't actually deal elemental damage. They do in this game, so you actually deal extra damage to enemies that are weak to the specific weapon you have. Also, it looks like Surface chose to kill the right eye. The right eye on the wall face is the one that casts offensive magic. The left eye is the one that heals as well as casts physical attacks, if you will. Like the eye beam or stuff like that.
Yeah, and those kinds of things you can actively dodge. Like the beams that come out are ones that you can see it coming and you can move around. So yeah, getting rid of that right eye is a very, very clean strategy.
Yep. Might be a bit slower because it will also keep healing the center. So if you are confident you can survive the barrage of the right eye's attacks, you might want to kill the left eye instead. But at the same time, because you are locked into place and can't dodge these spell attacks, it might still be slower because you can't do anything while you get hit by a spell. So I think killing the right eye is probably the correct choice.
Yeah. It happened very, very momentarily there, but you'll notice that at the end, Surface got touched by a move called Leaden Glare, which slows you down. And the slowdown spell is one that makes your movement like the charge movement, so you don't run as fast. and there was a visual to it. So the hero was like glowing like a white kind of like hue over him. And this is one of those changes to the magic I was talking about. That there are specific color like auras that kind of like change the color palettes of the characters, so you know what buff or debuff you're under at that time visually. If like a text box scrolled by and you didn't see exactly what happened, you have a visual as well as to what is happening to you, which I think is a nice bit of QOL.
Surface is now facing off against the dragon lizard thing. I forget what it's called.
That one is what? Yeah, that I was gonna say the lizardon, but that's not right, is it?
I don't think
dragon lizard or something. It's biting lizard and dragon lizard in this one. They have like the old names.
Possibly. Either way, that one allows you to just knock it into a corner. Also worth noting, certain bosses, they do have specific amounts of MP. Otherwise, if those little lizards would have like 99 MP like most bosses do, they would just heal themselves forever, and you would battle them for like 20 minutes until they run out of magic, which is pretty awkward.
Yeah. So another couple of things as well. Dryad Seed picked up for Surface. We haven't really talked about it as well, but dealing with certain elements in this game, there are some things that we can do to be able to not get bodied by certain mechanics. Obviously, stun locking is a thing, and heavy damage on particular bosses is a thing that we can struggle with sometimes. Both of our players have access to the Midge Mallet. What the Midge Mallet does on use with a character is pigmatizes them, makes them small. You can use that if an enemy is using a spell on a character and they're in the spell lock animation and they're like, the spell's on them. You cast the Midge Mallet over that, and it basically overrides the damage being done. So if someone's being attacked, they're close to dying, you can just use that to basically nullify the damage and then move on. Obviously reuse it to make them full grown size again, so they can deal proper damage. But it's a good way of dealing with specific damage coming in. And there's the whip as well for Surface.
Indeed. Receives a glove orb from the Dwarven Elder and just goes back outside, it looks like. Interesting. So I just wanted to get that check.
So again, our players have the ability to go and check some certain areas with these mana seeds in hand. They can go and cash in a check at the mana palace. Things like the wind seed is a good one, because when you want to go and do the spring beak check, which funnily enough Surface is fighting right now. Spring beak is a weird boss. The hitbox is kind of like, so we haven't really talked about enemy hitboxes, and Yaga can go into a lot more detail about these. But bosses have, if I'm not mistaken, like double-sized hitboxes. But Springbeak's a really weird one, because his beak is actually like a guard box. The hitbox for Springbeak is like his hair above and behind him kind of thing. So you want to aim for like the back of his head, pretty much, rather than the front of his face. But like attacking the hair, back of the head, that kind of place is where you want to be going for Springbeak. But yeah, hitboxes are really fun in this game.
Yes. It's mostly for melee weapons that your attack range, or your attack surface area is doubled in boss fights compared to regular areas. So you have surprising amount of range with your weapons. Also, I'm actually really surprised how well he is hitting the Springbeak right there with his axe, because that is not really an easy thing to do most of the time.
A part of me does feel like there has been a little bit of change in terms of like evasion, the evasion element of enemies to be able to hit them more consistently as well. Because after a point, certain bosses have in the vanilla game have an evasion value. I think it's like a 1 in 3 chance of them dodging an attack, I believe. Is that the right number, Yaga?
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
roughly, a rough estimate. Who needs accuracy here? It's just a rando, right? But yeah, it feels like elements of that have been taken out to allow solid progression rather than having to worry about that element of RNG. Again, Moppleton can confirm if my assumption is correct there. But
he just did. Evasion is dropped on easy/medium. So on vanilla, they have actually 96 evasion, I think, all of them, or 99. Either way, it is apparently lower, which means instead of missing 1 in 3 times, we're missing a lot less.
Oh. Okay, we got solarcell up against the Ice Gygus, and he's got Final Fantasy Mystic Quest music raging in the background. Love to hear it.
This is great. Also, he has enough defense to fully defend against his Ice Breath, which is good, because if he didn't, that would be kind of a big problem, since he would get turned into a snowman and couldn't do anything for a while. And with only one character, that is very bad. Oh, he just got hit by acid rain, reducing his defense. You may see his character blinking in a weird way. This actually indicates status effects, buffs, and debuffs. So now he might actually get hit by the freeze breath. Also, you might notice the ice gigas is not flying around whatsoever. This is also a setting in the randomizer, so they stop just, well, dematerializing and materializing all the time, which makes them a lot more hittable overall, to say the least. Okay.
It should be noted as well this... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he just got hit, but not turned into a snowman. In the vanilla game, you are guaranteed to be turned into a snowman. But either he has an item that prevents him from being frozen, which is like 2 different accessories, or alternatively, he might, well, just get lucky. It might just be a chance in the randomizer. Not entirely sure.
It should be noted that certain bosses, when they're on a very particular map, can be really, really tricky.
Also,
you want to... Oh, go ahead.
There we have a sprite.
Oh, we do. You're right. Actually, yes. Where did he come from? Hello, mate. The sprites are happy-go-lucky, cocksure magician. Willow. We got the bull over there. I can't remember what is his name actually. That one. That's the second one.
Gorgon Bull.
Gorgon Bull.
Yep. Also, it was apparently in the chest right after the...
Oh, in the basement, right,
previous... Yes, in the basement. So that's actually very handy, because the sprite will speed up boss fights once he levels up spells, which, kind of like weapon levels, spell leveling is sped up by a significant margin. This guy is actually weak to wind elemental attacks. However, worth noting is that the sprite does not have enough magic, so the sprite joined at level 1, probably. Yeah, which is a good, actually kind of a good thing. So I have actually played around with the settings a little bit, where characters join you at current level, which is actually a lot less than ideal, because if they level up, they actually regain a full MP pool there, essentially. And that is actually not the case for the vanilla game.
Which is really, really weird, because like in Seiken 1, I don't know, it doesn't matter really, but like in Seiken 1 they had the HP and MP regain thing, and then they took it away for this, which I thought was quite a strange mechanic. So it's nice to have it back, because then you can like usually strategize around maybe, you know, leveling your magic a little bit before a boss fight, getting a level up, and going into the fight with full MP. Those kinds of things. Yeah.
Indeed. Also, worth noting, the sprite here will actually not gain any experience because he's knocked out. Or at least usually he wouldn't. I don't think that's changed in the randomizer. Yeah,
they don't get the experience.
Yeah, so
I believe also this fight doesn't actually restore you either. It just goes straight to the next cutscene. If I'm at least the last time I checked. Okay, maybe I just got unlucky. I did a speed where I didn't get any revive.
It depends on the boss you fight. Certain bosses have a weird transition script.
There we go. But yeah, if you are just joining us again, just quickly, sorry. If you are just joining us, welcome to the Secret of Mana Open World Randomizer. Myself, Bowie, and Yaga are your commentators for the day. We're watching SolarCell and SIRFACE do a vanilla long restrictive seed, where our players have to defeat the Mana Beast by having access to the Mana Fortress. In order to do that, they need to get 7 of the elemental spirits, all but Dryad, either the axe or sword and the whip, to be able to clear the Grand Palace and then complete the Mana Fortress.
Indeed. So, SIRFACE just noticed that the sprite doesn't have any magic left because, well, he was knocked out while the boss was defeated. The bosses don't actually restore your MP, they just restore your HP like they did in the vanilla game. So that might have thrown him off a little bit. But then at the same time, maybe it just doesn't matter as much, since, especially against Mech Rider number 3 here, well, magic doesn't really help you all that much unless you manage to knock him out effectively before he brings up his wall, which reflects spells. And reflected spells are pretty unpleasant.
Yeah, he can also be pretty manipulated as well. He's one of those characters that if he basically is on the same axis, like MY axis as you, he will dash across. If you in his original fight, you just kind of like stay on the bottom and not get hit. But you can manipulate his movement, his position very, very well in order to get good fights. Looking over at Solar Cell's side, though, he's fighting Metal Mantis, and he's got the Dark Glitch theme raging on. I believe it's called Oracle, actually. It's the Great Track.
Dark Oracle. Yeah. Actually, the Oracle sounds about right. Either way, he was a little bit too far away from Metal Mantis. You want to stay very close enough and personal to him after hitting him. Otherwise, he will unleash some like ranged attacks that can knock you unconscious, or he will unleash some spells. So solarcell is just staying close enough so he plays out the physical attack swings. He could stay on the left or the right side of Metal Mantis in order to make him on the swing with one hand very slowly. That would make it a bit easier, but this works just as fine.
Yeah, that's Solar Cell does run the vanilla game, the 1P2C category, so I believe he knows his way around certain boss strats. It's kind of fun to note that there's a battle suit, 30k. So because our players are doing very little combat, they're not going to be getting much GP overall. There's an argument that maybe doing a little bit of fighting here and there to prop up your funds is a good idea, but one of those things.
Indeed. Also, he is buying a bunch of fairy walnuts. So, another little change, quality of life change in the randomizer is you can actually buy multiples of a single item in one purchase rather than having to buy each individual one. And your maximum item count is actually up to 7 rather than the usual up to 4.
Solar Cell going to the Grand Palace area. So this is the place we need to do to defeat. Rather than going straight into the lobby upstairs, he's probably going to head down. There's a couple of free checks down here. In the first floor of the Grand Palace, we're going to be going to the underground though. In the first floor there is a chest, and in the underground there's a chest on the very, very first screen and an early boss fight. Solar Cell might do the whole underground section, but alone it might be a little bit annoying. Does have the axe, so you do need to remember that you need certain things to get through. The axe is the only one that breaks down this bit of coral. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's coral. I never knew what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's just what I guess it is, really, right? Swords orb, yay! Okay, he's just going to grab that and go, and a bomb as well. A bomb for your troubles. I believe, he'll probably do that, then do the first floor of Grand Palace, and then probably go up to the lobby afterwards. Well, the lobby would be with the Dryad. Oh, he doesn't have Dryad Seed though. Yeah, it's only Surface that has the Dryad Seed. With the Dryad Seed, it would be the fight against the Snapdragon. Then you get the Dryad check. Then you get Hexus, and you can go back downstairs to fight the 8 Gropilon. So it would be 4 checks. So it's only going to be 3 if he does decide to do it.
So worth noting here that something you may notice on Surface's side is that he just keeps ignoring where the sprite is and just runs away from the sprite. In the vanilla game, you would be locked into position until your allied characters are close enough for them to follow you without a certain camera boundary. However, the randomizer allows you to just run as far away as you want, and they will just eventually teleport over to you. Kind of like you may know from the sequel of Second Season 3, which is kind of how that works too.
So in the first floor, or rather the balcony there where Solar Cell went to go check that chest, he did find the sea hare tail. So he can take this to Kakara. If you go to Kakara, you can trade that in with the person who normally you gave it to, and it makes the oasis appear. Speaking of SD3, if you go to Kakara, you can give the sea hare tail for a check. Whether or not he does that. It looks like Solar Cell is going for the Empire now, though. So yeah, it looks like he's gonna grab himself a sprite as well.
So, yeah. I remember when I first tried out the open world randomizer and the bosses here were randomized, where Hydra is right now. The funny thing was that you would fight 3 bosses in a row, the same 3 bosses in a row, and with scaling boss enemies, you just level up in between each enemy, and each successful boss would be a little bit stronger than the previous one. It's actually kind of awkward. Also, he does not have Salamander, which would be the weakness of Jabberwocky, but he still used some spells, partially probably to level them up, but they still deal okay damage overall.
The thing about the Jabberwocky though is he can be chained quite simplistically. Hopefully, if Sprite wants to get involved here, Sprite is quite weak physically, and these levels are fairly lowish. So the chaining can happen. The whack of 1, hell yeah.
Yeah, the sprite right now has the Javelin, which does increase intelligence and wisdom, which, as mentioned before, is a huge boost to spell power. but not as much to physical attack power. Hydra is probably one of the most brutal bosses to fight if it's at really high level and has really high agility, which means it would use its abilities and spells really, really frequently. In some more of the other randomizer modes, you can get Hydra up to a ridiculous degree of levels, where it will literally just chainlock your entire party and cancel its own damage, so you're literally just locked into place and have to reset. It's kind of ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
As much as characters, as much as bosses are scaled as well, they do have. Don't worry about there's weirdness here on this like 3-ton pole fight down here, the biting lizard fight. There is no whiteout, and it just plays around that a little bit. I was gonna say it's what was I gonna say? I've completely forgotten now. Great. You go ahead. I'll think about it.
Solarcell is actually about to find his sprite now as well, where he will be able to get some magic. I wonder whether he will have a plan of like powering up the sprite a little bit first, or whether he wants to level up spells. He does have Sylphid and Dryad. Dryad is an interesting element to cast spells with, because it does have the spell with the highest base attack power, but it's not really like super effective against anything in particular. It's just on the baseline really strong. But as long as you don't have the appropriate element, which in this case Surface does against the Minotaur, which is weak to air, Dryad can actually be pretty good. The downside is it costs 4 MP per spellcast, which is very costly. You also see Surface use Air Blast rather than Thunderbolt. Air Blast deals less base damage, but because it only costs 2 MP, it's a lot more efficient to use than casting Thunderbolt, which in the middle game costs 3 MP. In this one, the randomizer, it is more balanced and only costs you 3. But unless you have a higher level character that can guarantee take out the boss quickly with Thunderbolt spam, it's more efficient to just use the Sylphid Windblades.
If you are interested in trying this out as well, the developer is in chat and is sharing some links so that you can either join the Discord and kind of get access to the randomizer yourself. There are multiple modes in it as well. We're just showing off the open world, which is the newest version or the newest mode in the program. You have access to an ancient cave style thing. If anyone's played Lufia 2, where it's kind of like a floor by floor kind of progression system, and you get bosses at the end of every floor or every few floors depending on your settings, but this is like the brand new one and the really interesting one, as if that makes it sound like the others aren't interesting. They are, but this is the new one. We've got a water seed for Surface, so that's why he's going to the Water Palace, so he can take out this boss fight, which is the biting lizard, give the seed over to get the item check from Luca, and then probably head over to the Undying Cave as well to clear those two.
Indeed. So worth noting is Surface is fighting this tadpole here first. If he were to deal enough damage in one like fell swoop, he would be able to take out the bots here before it transforms, but he decided to not chain his spells and attacks, so it's instead just this little guy hopping inside the wall, I guess. I like this music. By the way, for anybody who is curious, if you'd rather have like the vanilla Secret of Mana music, there are options for virtually everything. You can actually turn off pretty much all the randomization and have only like the quality of life changes that the mode brings with it. So there's also vanilla randomizer, there's a kills randomizer. Basically, I'd recommend you just check it out and like play around with it. It's really
There really is loads and loads of options and things you wouldn't even think of. Like, for example, you can make the enemies all one enemy if you want. So if you like, you should note that the Rabbites have like random colors assigned to them. You can just get every enemy in the game as Rabbites, and they'll all be just every color of the rainbow. You can just have a Rabbite onslaught if you want, or you can go against too many Nemesis owls. Or anything, but yeah, you can muck around with the options to a great degree, which is very, very lovely.
Solarcell managed to keep the sprite alive during the fight, so he will be rewarded with the sprite immediately leveling up and having a lot more maximum MP to work with. So that's pretty awesome.
Another Hydra here. I was hoping it was going to be the actual Jabberwocky. So the Jabberwocky's red and the Hydra's green, and that's how you can tell the difference between them. Hydra has this thing where a head will be destroyed and it will come back. Hydra has a larger overall HP pool than the Jabberwocky. Again, that's what I was going to say. brilliant, great timing. Their enemies do have their scaling based on where they are, but they still have their proportionate HP pool to the kind of enemy they are. So Hydra will still take more punishment than Jabberwocky would in this scenario. It's not like the spot has a certain amount of HP based on the level you go into it at. It'll just be, you know.
Well, scale based on the current level that the characters have.
Yeah,
Which, by the way, that scaling you can also change. As what we mentioned at the beginning, there's like 3 different types of scaling based on your character level, so the enemies just level exactly with you, based on time, which means the faster you go, the less trouble you have with enemies, and based on... What was the last one?
There is time. So you can set it to be like super fast or super slow, where the enemies will get stronger over a set period of time. So every minute they'll get stronger by a level, or every like 5 minutes kind of thing. So it's one of those ones where you have to be super speedy, or you're going to get outpaced heavily.
Right. The last one I mentioned actually was the after bosses, like each boss would be like an increase of like 2 or 3 levels for all the enemies scaling, which actually poses an interesting problem when I tried it out, in that you go to an area that you defeat like 3 bosses in and you don't get anything useful out of it. The best strategy there would be just to reset, because now the enemies are all stronger and you haven't really gained anything of note. So in this case, scaling with the player just probably makes more sense, although I do personally prefer that scaling with time.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think one of those ones, like, I think using the match player setting that is being used here, my personal opinion that this is like my first seed I ever played of this was with boss defeat, and I got heavily outscaled because I was just like defeating bosses left, right, and center, and then suddenly I was like, oh, that's a big increase. Now I'm knackered. But then with match player, it kind of allows you to kind of like consistently feel the pressure without being overwhelmed. But yeah, time is one of those ones that if you can get through everything snappily, then oh man, you'll be laughing.
Indeed. So you also could see Surface is continuously still fit on virtually every boss that he finds that is not resistant against Dryad. Also, he did find Undyne somewhere. It looks like. Undyne is actually an overall better element just for using it as a general purpose element, because the freeze wave only costs 2 MP, like the whatever those wind plates are called. I keep forgetting that.
Air blast.
Yeah, air blast. It is actually the same cost as air blast, but it has the same highest attack power, kind of like Thunderbolt. So overall, freeze is just an amazing move that is like universally super useful.
Yeah, and also Undyne has access to Acid Rain, which causes defense down, which is super, super nice. If you're struggling to deal major damage, there is one spell better. Like the key spells that we're looking for like speed and damage are going to be the Lunar Magics and Gnome. So yeah, Gnome has access to speed up, and the changes in the rando for that are really good. And then obviously Luna has Moon Magic or Moon Energy if you have the girl with you, which is like guaranteed crit, which is that's hot, dude. That's hot. Yeah.
There's a question in chat. Is there an option to scale based on the strength that the enemies normally had in that location? Not in the open world, no, because otherwise you might run into the problem where you might not be able to really beat anything, because you have to like get the girl and the sprite in the Pure Lands, and how are you going to do that properly? That could be really, really difficult overall. But at the same time, there is a vanilla randomizer, like you can just play the original game with randomized things in it, so that might be what you like in that case.
Funny enough, I as I was mentioning it earlier, when I said that no area is really off limits as long as you have the tool to get through it based on the match player scaling, which for me makes the Pure Lands. If you have a sword or axe to get through that area, and you have like 2 characters, the Pure Lands is 6 bosses, and I think 3 of those bosses, if not all of them, give 2 item checks per KO. So I think it's like a really, personally, like that's like 6 to 12 checks, something is pretty good going. And you come out of that with a lot of money as well, because of the bosses that you're fighting. So, but yeah, to each their own, of course. To each their own. I'm curious to see when they will go for that pick as well. Like if they're waiting for the girl to go in, or if they're waiting for a specific reason to do that, maybe get those kind of out of the way checks done, get all the annoying ones done, so that it kind of move on from there.
I think SolarCell doesn't realize that the Voice Whip is water element, so he's dealing significantly less damage than he would otherwise against Hydra, who is resisting against water, but it still worked out.
Yeah. Again, that's the nice thing about match player scaling, is that even if you feel like you're not doing that much damage or like less than you are, it's not like the enemy's going to get absolutely they aren't going to be hammering you completely. You know, they'll be tough, but you can still deal with it. Yeah, there's the water seed again. So the seeds are looking good, but our players do need to find the elemental spirits. So we've got 2 on each side. We know where 3 are in total, but we only both players only have 2.
Yeah. At this point, I think I would probably head into the volcano because we know Salamander is there, right? I think that was earlier on a hint. So you know you kind of have to go out there at some point. So you don't know how far into the volcano it is. It could be effectively all the way, or it could be very early on. So you might just find other things that are useful along the way.
Yeah. So we've now got SolarCell going for a little bit of high tension wire. Hell yeah, dude. Good track.
That's the music for anybody who's curious.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. The Mana music is just amazing. I think we should probably take a moment just to say that Mana music is fantastic.
Indeed.
Interesting. Going for the Fire Palace check. So the Fire Palace check is an interesting one. So normally, if you were allowing certain glitches, our players could do the barrel glitch up the slide there in the middle. But because we haven't got that available, we need to go underneath the bottom. So you basically, the sprite is mandatory, pretty much. It's most likely it's going to be the sprite because he has access to most offensive magics to get down here and take down the orb. But it is Undyne, so it can be cleared. There are 4 checks in here, 3 chests, the boss, and 5 if you include the seed, which he has. So this will be 5 checks as long as I can get through the second orb as well, and the third.
Yeah, I actually keep forgetting about this chest here on the bottom left for some reason, even though you see it while you're running through. Shade magic. Alrighty.
There it is.
There's no.
So yeah, earlier there was that. Yeah. Earlier there was a note saying that the shade magic was behind a water orb. That was the elemental orb that we needed to get through, and then boom, shade magic. Nice.
Indeed. Shade magic is a bit of an interesting one, I would say, because it is... Oh, did he know that this was Dryad?
I guess there was a hint somewhere saying that was what it was. I was going to say, like, that's pretty impressive just to go in there without having a bunch of elements available. There's the girl! How you going?
Well. Stuck in a chest. That seems pretty uncomfortable.
And she had a bow on her. But our players have both an axe and a whip, so they're set for weapons.
Yeah, they're set on weapons. The bow can still be kind of handy in case they have like gotten a load of bow orbs. It is not the most efficient weapon to use, but it can be decently strong if you get the appropriate upgrades.
Okay, so we've got SolarCell going for the moon. He's probably going to just check. He hasn't got the moon seed, so can't actually clear this palace, but just going to check what orb it is, I guess. Today's orb is Lumina. Okay.
So it is both Lumina as well as Dryad. Lumina.
Yeah.
Need Dryad in order to completely destroy that orb that is associated with Lumina, of course. No.
Right now, we've got a 2 spirit lead currently for Surface. Surface has, again, our players don't need Dryad. Our players need 7, the other 7 elementals apart from Dryad. So, Gnome, Undyne, Salamander, Sylphid, Luna, Shade, and Lumina. And then also the Axe and Whip. Ooh, that's a nasty stuff.
SolarCell doesn't have Undyne, does he?
I don't believe he does. I didn't see him pick Undyne up. Oh no, got the getting bodied.
This is where the autosave feature comes in handy. So normally in the vanilla game, if you die, you just reload your last save, which is usually at an inn. But well, they are not really going to go in an inn, so having the autosave feature is really, really handy here. Also, these
it's super nice. Big fan. Big fan. And again, it also saves on like most screen transition. I don't think it's every screen transition, but like most of them, and like big ones basically. So it seems like he does actually have Undyne.
He must have in this case. Yep, in this case he is also going to catch up pretty much immediately on getting the lady into his team, which is very, very handy.
Yeah.
I mean, the ghost.
We also have Surface cleaning up the Metal Mantis out in the Sprite Village, and it will clean up the Wind Palace too with that Wind Seed, which is 2 checks. You get 2 items for that one, to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure I did once, at least when I was doing a seed.
Yeah, you normally get the seed as well as the elemental spirit, plus the boss item here, so it's actually 3 total, I guess.
That's good damage coming out there as well.
Yeah. And he's now leveling up Undyne's free spell. It is currently only like level 2, but Metal Mantis doesn't have any particular weakness, so you might as well just use the most efficient neutral spell, in this case Undyne, and that will be very quickly stronger and more efficient than using Sylphid.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got good work from both players here. It looks like, is solarcell going to stick to this? Seems like for now.
Yeah, he might just go for it just kind of like Surface did earlier as well. We don't really know yet. I mean, they don't necessarily have the element they need in order to clear the next orb, but well, we'll see. Also, these goblins are kind of mean, because if they're off-screen, they just endlessly throw boomerangs. Like, they don't do anything aside from throwing the boomerangs, and that can be really difficult to manage if you don't know exactly where they spawn.
We have a spear coming from the Sprite Elder. Yeah, spear and a javelin's orb, so all the weapons coming out. However, again, we already have the mandatory weapons. At this point, it's just a case of which one you like, pretty much. It looks like solarcell will continue and finish off the Fire Palace, though. Surface has been leaving like the odd check here and there behind. That, oh, hello, Surface is going for the Pure Lands. Here we go. Yeah, now this is some content right here. What music are we going to get in the Pure Lands? Let's have a look. Switch that audio over. The Pure Lands is a lovely part of the game. IMO. I love this place. Yeah, there's 6 bosses. There's a boss, then a trial boss, then a boss, then a trial boss, trial boss, and then you get to the mana tree, which is also a check. So 7 checks in total. In my experience, I've seen that the some bosses do drop 2 items. May not be the case for all of them, but what do we got here? We've got the Jabberwocky.
No, it's Jabberwocky. Jabberwocky is actually resistant to freeze. I think he forgot to switch over, or maybe he just does not care. The funny thing is, if you have a high enough Undyne level, it might not matter that much that it is resistant to it, but I will still personally just switch over back to Sylphid, since Sylphid is already leveled. But then again, that's me. Maybe they have more experience with Randomizer. Or maybe he just wants to level up Undyne, which is very possible too.
Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning the strength of freeze in general. I mean, having it as a go-to spell at that kind of strength is very nice. Solarcell looking at the Minotaur spot. It is the Vampire. Well, is that Vampire or Buffy? Let's see the color.
I think it's Buffy.
Buffy.
Worth noting that against Vampire and Buffy, normally you cannot hit those guys when they are just floating with their cape closed up above the ground. However, there is a randomizer setting where it allows you to actually still hit them, which makes them very much more manageable if you don't have like spellcasters yet to take advantage. Also, the sprite got knocked unconscious because the Buffy landed on him.
Gloves orb. Oh, gloves orb, and someone else got your item. So only one of the 2 checks from that first fight was something. But yeah, it's super nice because, like, I mean, if any of you have seen a Secret of Mana speed run, or if you've run it yourself, you know that Vampire and Buffy are 2 very particular bosses that stress us out, because if he wants to stay in his cape, there's nothing you can do. So I mean, you cast magic, but like.
So and here we have Hextas. Hextas also does not have any particular weakness, and actually pretty decent magic resistance, so I'm not entirely sure how much damage freeze will do. Probably still quite a lot. Yeah, that's still a lot of damage there that freeze will just destroy.
Also, what's interesting to note as well, because this is the thing that I think a lot of people know, but like when a character is pygmied, there is less lag between casts because there's less animation that the pygmy version of characters have versus when they're fully grown. When they're fully grown, they kind of like do a I don't know. There's just the casting time is longer. They do this whole thing where they bring the spirit out and then they kind of cast. Whereas it's just much shorter when they're pygmied, which is kind of cool.
Yep. In short, you cast a lot faster, which is very handy.
Got Axe's Orb and the Light Seed. Yay! Okay, so Surface can now go and clean up Gold Tower, which might have something up there again. This is where getting the hints and kind of taking that information in. Like, for example, if a hint earlier said behind the Light Seed is blah, you'd be like, great, I've got the Light Seed. Let's go and do that right away. But you know.
Solarcell actually managed to one-shot Tadpole before it transformed, which I'm actually a little bit surprised by, because you cannot properly chain cast level 3 and level 4 Thunderbolt, because it's weird. Speaking of weird...
Elliot is having a great day. Yeah. Oh, wow. Surfaces haven't given Elliot the business. So in the original fight, at the beginning of the vanilla game, when you fight the Metal Mantis, both the hero and Elliot fall into the hole where the Mantis is, where Mantis Ant is. And in the corner is Elliot really scared, and you step up like the hero you are to body Mantis. This is a part of the Mantis Ant kind of like being in an area, so you'll just find Elliot in all kinds of random locations. For now, he's halfway up a wall, so...
Yeah, this is just lovely. So, somebody in chat was asking, where do you get the hints from? The hints are, generally speaking, on like key characters, like the Elder in Potter's Village, or also various other characters that you can just talk to in areas, as well as on signs that normally point you in the direction of Pandora, point you in the direction of the War Palace, etc. And also the orbs in Mandala that you can visit in order to just get a variety of hints and know what you might be looking forward to.
Yeah. So it kind of makes things like Mandala an early check. Mandala, if you don't know, if you don't know the villages by name, is the village just northeast of the northwest of the Dark Palace. So we're fighting Buffy again.
Hi, Buffy.
Yeah, if you go to the north side of Mandala, there's like 7 orbs you can check, and they'll all give you hints. Although to be a bit trolly, Moppleton does have it that some. Oh, we have Lumina as well. Great. That's one of our. Yeah, that's 4 out of 4 out of 7 of our spirits. But sometimes the hints that don't actually have a hint is what I was trying to say. So yeah.
Yep. We'll also get Salamander here somewhere in the Pure Land, so we know that's a thing. So Buffy is actually weak to light or holy element, whatever you want to call it, and the lady does have a pretty competent, like, offensive holy element. However, it is relatively expensive to cast for 4 MP for each spellcast, which, by the way, is only half compared to what the vanilla game asks for, which is 8 MP. Yeah. The vanilla game, Lucent Beam is almost unusable in most circumstances because it's so expensive. However, with 4 MP per spellcast, especially on bosses that are relatively weak to it, it can be very efficient, if only because you also level up Lucid Barrier, which blocks physical damage, which can be incredibly helpful.
Yeah, Lucid Barrier is really good. Lucid Barrier and Wall, obviously your, physical nullifier and magical reflector. The Lucid Barrier basically defends against a certain number of hits. It's not like damage based or anything, but it'll tank a hit, I think, at level 0, then at level 1 it'll tank 2 kind of thing. So
I think it's also like damage based. Like it's both number of hits and as well
is it? Okay.
damage based. I think.
Fair
I'm not entirely sure.
Anyway,
it looks like Solarcell is sticking to Sylphid instead of switching over to Unlily, which is a fair choice too, because it's 3 MP and the sprite should be high enough level that for the most part he is not going to run out of MP too quickly. But yeah.
Spiky! Oh, sorry, blue spiky tiger here. So the blue version, again, is somewhat similar to Hydra, where you'll beat up this tiger, then he'll lose a head, then it will come back. The head being destroyed for blue spiky is an indicator for how close the fight is to being done, because he will basically blow up, his head will explode when you're on like the last quarter or last fifth of his HP. So it's very, very close to dead at that point.
Indeed. So also, Blue Spike has a similar pattern to Spiky Tiger, where if it jumps up into the air, it will do one of two things based on your positioning. It will either go onto its tower, quote unquote, which is in the bottom left in this arena, which, by the way, Mobile kind of made like spots for each individual boss, for each individual like spawn point, like copy colors, emerging and submerging, etc. Either way, the tower, he would then start casting various spells and attacks from a range, more or less. However, he just can immediately back down from his, well, left spot, and now is trying to harass the players, the people. Also, Kuscheltiger, nice name. That's the German name for Blue Spike. It's great. It basically means cuddly tiger. It's great.
Some of the German words, the thing I will always love the Pogopuschel, which is the rabbits in German, which is lovely.
Pogopuschel. Pogo is kind of like a type of dance, I think, and puschel is like something fluffy. I'm not entirely sure how to translate that. It's great though. I love
fluffy dance is basically what it's called. That's amazing. Okay, so yeah, we got Surface cleaning up the Pure Lands with the Pure Lands music. Oh, lovely. This is the 6th battle then, which is another Mantis Ant and another scared Elliot.
Yep. Worth noting, Mantis Ant is actually Earth Element, so Undine is super effective against it. But you don't usually get to take advantage of that in vanilla game because, well, you don't have Undine yet. But his defense and magic defense is so low. Freeze level 6 is going to absolutely demolish this poor guy regardless.
I always liked when, as a kid, this is completely random and not relevant at all, but I always liked how the numbers got bigger based on how much damage you did. Like the 1 to 49 being little tiny numbers, then 50 to, I think, like 199 were like bigger, and then 200 plus is like big numbers. So it was just one of those things I always enjoyed. Simultaneous Mantis Ant kills there as well, so.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure this should be now Salamander acquired. Way to go. Oops, no, I don't.
Okay, so the Lumina magic came from the first Mantis Ant kill, actually. Sorry.
I see. Is that what I was thinking of?
Maybe.
Either way, fun fact, from the Blue Dragon spot back to this area here with just normally save point and the cutscene initiation for the mana tree, you can actually take the magic rope in the vanilla game in order to get back to like that main area there. However, I think the magic rope takes you a different place in the randomizer, so probably shouldn't try that.
Yeah. It's quite a ways to go. Obviously, you're making your way through quite a fair bit. The mana tree, there is a mode we should mention. This is obviously vanilla long, so you got to defeat the. Oh, there's Salamander as well. So we knew he was there, but there he is. So yeah, there's 3 modes. We've got vanilla long. There's obviously therefore a vanilla short. The difference between vanilla long and short is that short doesn't need you to defeat the Grand Palace, so you only need an action whip pretty to get through the Mana Fortress. There's a 3rd mode, which is Mana Tree Revival. This requires you to get any number between 1 and 8 of the mana seeds, and then make your way to the mana tree, which can be a longer or shorter category depending on how well that seed goes. But there is a different mode if you wish to kind of like do something different. You can either have it set to whatever number you want, or you can just randomize either 1 to 8. Up to you.
So Surface is now making his way probably back into the Earth Temple. Or maybe he's buying something so specific. So he did actually take a little bit of time in the menus earlier for the shops, which kind of indicates to me that he wants to buy something here that is very useful. He's going for...
Everything's a bit too expensive here. I was under the impression that he was looking for the battle suit because he found one earlier, but again, that's 30k.
The funny thing is actually it's better to get the high-level gauntlets or, well, upgraded like accessories, because they actually have 250 magic defense as opposed to like the 90 defense that you normally see. So the higher level like accessory items are significantly more valuable than the higher level armors in my book, because usually you don't get hit too much anymore by physical attacks.
Yeah.
Whereas you will get knocked around quite a bit. plus they're usually also a lot cheaper to buy. So if you find a gauntlet in a shop, which doesn't just give you a lot of, well, 250 magic defense, which is 250 less damage per spell, but it also gives you 90 regular defense, which is a decent amount, as well as costing actually relatively little in comparison to most other items.
Yeah.
So it's
Also
all
to
about
note
the
as well.
here.
Yeah. Also to note as well that the tracker made by Menblock that Menblock is also currently tracking right now for you does also have access to a map, so you can see where checks are if you are playing it for the first time. Don't worry, obviously these runners have been playing the open world rando for a bit now, but if you are kind of new to it, you're not quite sure where to check and where like hints are, all that kind of stuff, a map is available to kind of give you an idea about where to go and what to check.
Indeed. So it might initially seem a bit overwhelming, but really you just go places and you find stuff and then you can go to more places. It's really just experience to do your first seed, because I may have mentioned this before, not entirely sure during this stream, but when I originally heard about the idea of open world randomizer for Secret Mana, I had no idea how this would even possibly be functional. Like, there's so little to work with compared to, let's say, Free Enterprise, but I feel like this actually turned out really well.
Yeah,
So
I mean, and the thing about it as well is that Mopson is actively working on it, so taking feedback and ideas and kind of like all that kind of stuff, and is always looking to improve it. So this is definitely not the final version of it as well. There's plenty more to come in future, which is super nice. Yeah, it's one of those things. We've got another Hexus here. Again, being able to clear out palaces and get the item check at the very, very end is a nice thing to do. I haven't seen, from my looking at both these players, I haven't seen any information about Luna. Did you see anything, Yaga?
I have not noticed anything about Luna, so it might just be that they have to blindly go and check the remaining checks that they haven't done yet.
Yeah, there's the
like here.
Yeah.
Probably.
There's the underground from the Grand Palace. We saw, obviously, I think earlier SolarCell checked just the chest in the underground. But you've obviously got like the Kettlekin fight and the actual Hydra fight, which is 2 fights down there. 2 more checks as well. So there's that.
Way to go. Well, here in the Earth Temple we are going to get more checks, just the glove orb, and we are also going to be able to see what's on the pedestal. Well, there's 8 pedestals here, so Gnome is
magic.
Gnome is in its vanilla spot. And this
there it
actually is speed of surface. Quite literally. So what
at
does
long
speed
last. Yeah, you go. Sorry, I was just saying at last. Just all yours, mate. Sorry.
Fair enough. So, the speed up is actually quite literal to its name. In the vanilla game, speed up more or less doesn't really do anything. It's not entirely accurate, but it basically doesn't do anything. Either way, in the randomizer here, it's actually incredibly useful because it allows you to speed around really quickly. So normally, if you want to run in this game, you would be just like dashing all over the place by hitting the A button, waiting for your stamina to regenerate. But now, his normal movement speed is just running the entire time, which is significantly faster. But that's not all of it. Your stamina bar, or your stamina gauge at the bottom, refills significantly faster than it does in the original 2, thanks to speed up, as well as your charge meter is also charging up significantly faster. So it is very, very handy.
Yeah, it's super nice. I think, just the ability to move around at that pace, and obviously the 100% gauge being done in seconds is like super nice. But just that ability to move, I mean, to make a correlation, or I guess like a similar kind of call is like, it's similar to having the Pegasus boots in A Link to the Past rando, getting gnome magic, and you have the girl is like, great, beautiful, I can go everywhere really, really fast. So.
Indeed.
I mean, you could obviously, move like Yaga does in the vanilla game, and you won't need speed up, but, it's significantly easier to get away with that kind of movement.
It's still faster with it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, Surface just used the magic rope, which, by the way, vanilla game would bring you to the entrance inside the temple. Here, the randomizer just brings you outside, which is a bit of a change. It's a slightly slower than well, otherwise it would be, but it's still faster than backtracking all the way from where he was in order to now go over to the boss. Also, there's a really annoying enemy here in the way, and he
Oh,
managed to sneak past. So
it
these
should be
enemies
noted.
here cannot normally be moved. Yeah, sorry. These enemies here cannot normally be moved around or pushed around in the vanilla game, but they effectively, whatever enemy replaces what enemy, they inherit the properties of whether they are being able to push around or not. So in this case, you can actually push around eyes on the ground, which is kind of weird. But also vice versa, enemies replacing the eyes, you cannot push around in the randomizer. It's a bit strange. Oh, you should not use these on this one.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, isn't he fire weak, Lime Slime?
Yes, he is resilient against water. But then again, Undine is really powerful, so it might not matter much. Oh, I think it does.
Yeah, so... What was I going to say? I was going to mention something specific, but... never mind. Probably one of those things that doesn't matter if I forget it so easily. Yeah, I'm curious to see, like... Yeah, just keeping that up there. Yeah, no, never mind. My thought was clarified for me.
Alrighty. So he is also leveling up Shade now. Shade's Dark Force is only useful against one boss in particular, and I do believe both the Lime Slime and the Dread Slime arenas will always contain their respective bosses. So he might just be leveling up, well, Shade spells just in order to use it against the boss there. Also, Evil Gate is actually useful against bosses now too, which is not true in the vanilla game. In vanilla game, you always deal exactly 1 damage against the bosses. However, in the randomizer, Evil Gate will deal percentage-based damage on bosses too, which is very useful if you play in hard mode and the mana beast has ridiculous scaling.
Yeah.
Because then you actually deal just 999 with 1 Evil Gate anyways.
Yeah. So I remember what I was going to say actually, yeah. You'll notice that players, both the runners are using slightly less physical stuff now. Like they're not really worrying about upgrading their weapons at this point. They're getting to level 4 or whatever. When you have reliable access to magic, you know, it just becomes the cleanest way to deal damage quickly and effectively and reliably, most importantly. So for a lot of it, you know, they're not worrying so much about weapons now. It's just one of those things where if you haven't got any magic at the beginning of the run, you know, that's where weaponry will really shine and will really be important, and managing that kind of stuff is going to be key. As you move on, though, I mean, it's one of those things that when you come towards the end, if you don't have Evil Gate, for example, if you're doing like a short seed, you'll still have to find way. There will be pockets of time where physical is helpful. So jumping between those two thought processes is important.
Okay. I'm told that Evil Gate is still useless in match player mode. Oh yeah, that's actually a thing I remember now, because normally the setting I use is where the vanilla or the mana beast has vanilla stats, which means it has 450 defense, 9990 HP, but this is going to be scaled here, so it's not Evil Gate is not going to be nearly as useful on it, I suppose.
Yeah. So yeah, you can scale the final boss in that way as well. You can, and that is an option separate that you can select. You know, the mana beast is vanilla, which is a lot of stats, or scaled but still, you know, pumped up because it's the final boss.
Yep. I mean, that's what I like to do, just because I'm kind of used to those stats with minimum stuff. But I guess it can also be nice if you actually can deal regular swings damage with regular weapons on the mana beast, rather than having to have the mana sword.
Yeah. Both runners going for the same check though. So this is the Sage Jock check in the oh my word, words are just completely escaping me today.
You need to catch them again and
doppelgangers.
Yes.
Doppelgangers.
I think doppelgangers are probably still in here. They are not in any other arena. I'm pretty sure anyways. Either way, let's see what we're going to get here.
A bit of information.
Oh, Undine we already found.
Light seed in a volcano found.
Yep.
But yeah, so you got to get through this maze first of all. You need the axe and whip to clear this. So the axe obviously take down these pieces, and there's a couple of whip spots as well to get across. It's only one check, so this is one of those ones you may not want to kind of go all the way out of the way to do unless you have access to Dark Palace as well, and you're doing that on the way through, which is what Surface is doing for sure. Or unless you've already checked it earlier and you know that something here is like behind the doppelgangers is, you know, the one item you're looking for. So
yeah. And one of the funny things about doppelgangers is a lot of people don't know that in the vanilla game this works too. You can just let your cactus get knocked out. You do not have to defeat the doppelgangers yourself. And that is significantly faster than trying to defeat them, usually. There are certain circumstances where you may have a super powered sword and Luna to guarantee critical hits to just knock them out really fast. But yeah. Also, the boy takes 85 damage. That's good enough to get him knocked down with just one more hit. So you actually kind of want your characters to be relatively... Oh, there's Luna.
Oh, nice. Perfect. That's all of our spirits. Great stuff. Yep. Excellent. So 122 minutes. 1 hour and 22 minutes. That is technically go mode then, I believe. We have our 7 spirits, we have our whip and a cutting weapon in the shape of the axe. So off to the Grand Palace is Surface. So a very, very close race so far. It's going to come down to execution at this point, really.
Yep. solarcell also unequipped the items, so the boy will take more damage from the doppelganger of the boy as well, so he gets knocked out quickly. He could have just used a Mitch mallet, but I guess he was going for the more efficient approach for at least taking maximum damage. I'm not entirely sure when what is more efficient, but I'm just usually lazy and just cut my defense by 3/4 by using a Mitch mallet.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and now they are indeed off to the Grand Palace. The Grand Palace? So these orbs you need to activate via spells are actually vanilla. What this means is that you just need to cast the appropriate spells. The one difference is that they don't have to go all the way up to the podiums in order to actually see the seats. They only have to, like, just target all enemies, I guess. That is kind of a bit of a quirk because of how the randomizer, like, changes things a little bit around to work with off-screen stuff. I'm not entirely sure how or why it works, but it's kind of convenient.
So solarcell forgetting to use speed up here from the girl, and that's going to be a big difference here. If solarcell keeps that up, Surface is getting a free advantage being able to dash around a lot more freely the way he is. Although he's getting caught by these ninjas here, which may be a bit tricky. Okay, gets out of that. Good.
Yep. Also, the boy just getting knocked backwards into the stairs there, through a wall, of course, because Seeker of Mana is a bit weird sometimes.
So you get a hint as to what element you need to use in a room based on the color of the room. So, yeah, the rooms will be like slightly tinted in terms of like they're all the same design, but the color palette will be slightly different. Like there'll be a slightly yellower one, a slightly bluer one, all that kind of stuff. So. And yeah, things like the Salamando one and the Shade one are quite obvious. They basically mirror the palace that they're in terms of like even the flames will look the same, all that kind of stuff. So.
Indeed.
What is nice as well, this is again another quality of life thing that Moppleton added in, is that when you select and target things, especially the orbs, they're already pre-colored, so you don't even need to. Normally, you have to use Analyzer, right? The girl has the Analyzer spell, and you use that, and it goes, "Oh, it's the flame orb," like that. But in this one, they're just already colored. But if you can't quite see it, you can just target it, and it will say Gnome Orb and Sylphid Orb. Further to that, when you target enemies, it'll say what level they are, so you already know their strength relative to yours. So if you're curious.
Yeah, which in this case is always going to be the boy's strength. Surface going the long way around in order to activate that switch. You could also just use a ranged weapon in order to activate it. I'm not sure whether they actually... So they are operating on the glitchless rule set for anybody who is curious, because there would be ways and means around certain areas otherwise, but they are deliberately trying to not use glitches. I don't know whether they just kind of don't use that because that's something that they think is not used in glitchless, or whether that's just something normal. One thing is also kind of worth noting, normally you would get a lot of text boxes, a lot of cutscenes and such. That is, of course, all taken out in Randomizer. And they basically just depends on which animation you choose for your spells in order to activate the orbs to go through a little bit quicker. Yeah. Solar Cell also goes up to there.
Yeah.
We do allow in Glitchless to use a bow as a javelin in order to like activate this from a range.
Yeah,
But they are really close together though.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that Solar Cell has remembered that the speed up spell exists, so he's getting to that pacey movement. But yeah, I think just like currently just a seed or a element ahead right now is Surface. So he's coming up to the end of it now. Just gonna do the back end here of the palace. He'll do his last element, which is on this bottom left-hand corner. Again, normally you wouldn't have access to Dryad. In the vanilla game, you do this first, and then you kind of go up to the lobby afterwards. Because when you go in there for the first time, you fight a Gruppalon, and then they lock you off as you kind of leave. And then you have to go underneath and do the whole thing, and you come up the top, and then you get Dryad. So you only need 7 spirits, and that's why it's those 7 particularly.
Exactly. So, Strike got knocked unconscious, who is the one who has the whip equipped. These enemies here are pretty annoying if you don't have equipment pieces that prevent you from getting knocked unconscious. There's like 2 separate accessories that help you with that. One is really expensive, and the other one, well, you need to get lucky enough to find it.
So I believe it's the magical armor, which is 11,500 GP for, and I think also the flower suit, which is the girls' version, if I'm not mistaken. But I know the magical suit definitely is.
Actually, I don't know about the magical suit. I know the flower armor does, and the vampiric vambrace, or what is it?
Pretty sure, because you normally get it in vanilla. You get the magic armor in Mandala, just when you get to the blue flowers.
That's what actually, in Mandala you get an accessory. I forget what it's called exactly.
Oh, the ivy bracelet. The ivy bracelet. Yeah.
That one. That's actually it sounds like it protects you from poison, which it does, but it also protects you from getting knocked unconscious. So that's what you might be thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
You're right. Yeah. I think it's because magical. I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things. Because you always buy them together in vanilla, so you never know which is the one that does it. But yeah, that's true.
Wait. You always buy them together. I always go for gold armor. But then again, how long ago has it been since I played this game in vanilla? A while, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing with speedrunning, right? And just doing things like this, especially when it comes to like playing randos as well. When you get stuck in the rando hole, and you're like, wait a minute, that's there normally. The amount of times that I have to go, what's normally in that chest in the game, especially with like FF5 sometimes. I'm just like, come on.
Yes, very true.
The mogul belt.
Yay! We can
mount the best accessory.
Absolutely. So for anybody who may not know Moogle status, basically Moogle cannot do anything, cannot fight, it cannot cast spells, it cannot use or change equipment or weapons. You're just a Moogle, you're running around, and that's it. So it's not useful, but it's cute, so you should use it.
So, it's the most necessary thing ever because you're adorable. It's really, really cool. But you can see how much time Solar Cell actually managed to kind of get back in that bit. I think Surface went for the slower fight of just using the lava wave. I think, she was just doing that. Luckily, though, it was a Frost Gigas up here, so he actually leveled up Salamander a little bit to be able to deal with Frost Gigas. Now that that's done, all the 7 orbs are available. Our players can defeat or can challenge Mech Rider 3. Mech Rider 3 is locked until those 7 orbs are used, and that's why it works out the way it does. And the barrier on the Mana Fortress is not taken down until Mech Rider 3 is jobby boshed. Mech Rider 3, however, is not Mech Rider 3. It is our good friend Jabberwocky. And I'm pretty sure Surface will, use his Vorpal Blade and snack this fool to the depths.
So, not entirely sure why he chooses specifically Lava Wave in order to take this guy out. I guess Lava Wave normally in the vanilla game costs 3 MP and is weaker than Fireball. I believe the power level is still the same, but you can chain Lava Wave a lot more easily than Fireballs. Although I do believe Floater would also be more powerful overall. Which I'm not entirely sure which is necessary because I haven't exactly played this version, so they might have just more experience with it.
It's one of those things where like Fireball, you can't recast until all 3 Fireballs have connected, which is like, and sometimes if they go in a weird way, they can always like cock you up a little bit. So yeah, Lava Wave and Exploder are just faster. Unlock the Mana Fortress though, so it's finale time for Surface. We've got to get through 3 bosses, and then you got the Mana Beast. Sorry, yeah. So you've got my boy. Well, it would be Buffy, Lime Slime, and Dread Slime, and then Dark Lich, but it may not be. So because random.
Probably it's not going to be. Yeah.
There's the Ivy Bracelet.
I like what Solar Cell is trying to do, but, well, Jabberwock is not being nice right now. Solar Cell is actually trying to charge physical attacks while this spray is casting a spell. At the very end of spell cast, you can actually chain in physical attacks in order to, well, help out with dealing some additional damage while the damage number displays. And with speed up, you can actually charge up your weapon up to level 4, 5, even 6 sometimes, in order to chain in more physical damage into certain spells. So, curiously enough, for the most part, strictly magic is better, but once you actually reach a certain level with, like, other abilities and spells, it suddenly becomes actually very efficient to also chain in physical attacks, or even just, well, purely use physical attacks, because they can be really powerful and charged up really quickly.
We've got into the thick of it playing for our push down the Mana Fortress. Getting stuck though with those enemies.
Yep, he is paused now. Also, just saw that Surface equipped actually the Ivy Amulet, or whatever it is called, which prevents him from getting knocked unconscious. But I do think it also has less defense than what he was using before. So he just equipped it on one character.
I thought Surface put it on all 3. He's just been doing it individually rather than using the equipment swap thing.
I see.
Yeah. But yeah, the amulet, I think it was +4 because he had the frost ban before. So 16 to 20, I want to say. I might be wrong. But,
Also, Solar Cell is going to actually go ahead and upgrade a weapon, it looks like.
Yeah.
Curious what he's going to go for. Probably just, yeah, he's going to just go for the weapon, it looks like. But unfortunately, he only has 1 more whip orb, so he is lacking on that department. So not sure whether this will pay off, but well, it could. Because you still need to use physical attacks largely against the Mana Beast. Probably. Actually, they might be able to use spells because it's scaling. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm gonna be curious.
I mean, our boy Flammy will probably drop out. I say Flammy. I always thought when I was a kid, right? I always thought that the Mana Beast we were fighting at the end was Flammy. Is that how you viewed it?
No, it says it looks like Flammy, but it's not. They literally say it's not. So.
Oh right. Yeah. Child me probably didn't realize, and child me is, not as smart as adult me. I'd like to think so, at least. I can't clarify that. I'll have a chat with him. But yeah. Anyway, the Mana Beast. He does cast Wall. So I mean, we have Dispel, so you can pop that. But so this is where Luna's really important, right? So Moon Energy again gives you a guaranteed crit, 1 for level 0, and you get more crits as you kind of like level it up. So it's interesting to see if our players will go for like leveling Luna a little bit to allow for like chain critting for these bosses, especially when you have things like this, like fire good times. Now this is a good track. Neo X Death, let's go.
Probably not going to survive for that long. Frost Gigas again, and well, once again, Salamando is going to deal a good amount of damage here. Even though it's only level 1, he just takes double damage. The sprite has, by now, pretty decent stats. There's various equipment that increases your intelligence further, which is the sprite's spellcasting stats. For example, if you find a circlet and also the Lazuri rings, those two increase intelligence by 5 each, and that's the equivalent of leveling up like 15 times for dealing more damage, so it's really good.
You also notice that Solar Cell is opting for the Moon Energy cast as he goes in order to level up that Luna and get more crit going on, so I think he is going for a physical finish, and it looks like Surface is focusing a little bit more on the magic.
Indeed. Also, I like that. I think the lady's weapon here is either enchanted with no magic on Solar Cell's end, or it is already like Gnome enchanted as a baseline. Either way, Gnome enchants or petrifying enemies is kind of broken in this game because it reduces enemies' HP by half before you deal the damage. So you can deal an insane amount of damage with the petrification weapons on a lot of enemies, and it can be very, very efficient.
Okay, so we've got the Frost Gigas here. No MP on the girl, so it's going to be... Oh, and no MP on the sprite either. Ooh.
Well, as long as he has some fairy walnuts, it should be fine. He
Yeah,
does always have Luna that he may be able to use on later bosses, but I think the Gigas actually reverse Luna. So you don't want to use it here. Or MP absorb, that is. Shade reaches level 2 on Surface's end. Dread Slime is weak to, well, darkness magic. So that's the only boss in the game that you can effectively use this spell for. Which I think actually costs 3 MP for whatever reason. I'm not entirely sure why Muppleton increased it from 2 to 3, because Undine's freeze is just strictly better.
I think the thing is I mean, I don't know if it's very I think Dark Force is like so easy to chain that, you know, being able to kind of like mass chain bosses like that kind of like takes down the ability to like mass chain, I guess. I don't know. It may not make a difference. It clearly didn't make a difference, but that might be a reasoning behind. Muppleton, why did you increase the cost of Dark Force?
Gigas' Argos types of their reverse MP absorb. Okay, so I remembered that correctly. I have tried out most of the things and run into most traps already.
I'll tell you what, mate. You could say like the biggest lie about Secret of Mana ever, and I believe it just because it's you, mate. Like, I just trust your knowledge in this game 100%.
I like what Moblin just said. 3 sounded better.
Yeah, because like, there is the thing is there is a specific information about magic MP scaling, like the decreases and increases of certain costs based on it. And I think he just kind of went, you know what? Let's just throw some numbers out, and then because I like them, which makes sense. Sometimes we do things just because we like them.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, basically, I mostly have just been surprised because Freeze and Dark Force have the exact same like baseline power, and both of them cost 2 MP. And effectively, Dark Force was the only other spell that was equivalent to Freeze, but still weaker because it couldn't take advantage of elemental, well, weaknesses, and was also not particularly efficient against a lot of other bosses. So, always been a bit surprised by that, but then again, Medblock already mentioned that it might have been because also Evil Gate's balance, because Evil Gate works on bosses now, on high HP bosses, so maybe to not as easily level it up. But then again, we actually have Dispel Magic, which only costs 1 here.
Okay, we've got ourselves the Thunder Gigas for our last fight before the Mana Beast. So going for the freeze again, because he is again because he's the Thunder Gigas, he's Sylphid element. So a gnome isn't properly leveled up, so we're going to go for the best neutral spell, which is freeze.
Yep, exactly. Gnome is still level 0, and I'm pretty sure it's more efficient to just use freeze at this point.
We had a slower fight against Dread Slime. Solarcell not opting for the Dark Force. Again, the lower level, so maybe thinking that using Thunder instead. But a part of me kind of feels that Dread Slime is so weak to Shade that it wouldn't have made too much of a difference. We can't. I mean, again, the damage that Sprite would put out with the spells, regardless, you know, having like increased Wisdom and Intelligence weapons, will still be pretty good. So, okay, that's a nice clean fight. Just the Mana Beast left then for Surface.
Indeed, that's going to be the final fight here. So the Mana Beast will have scale stats as well. In the vanilla game, you pretty much need the sword, and as you may notice, they actually don't even have the sword right now, so they can't even unlock the Mana Sword. And a lot of people think you need the Mana Sword in order to defeat the Mana Beast. What is in reality the truth is it just has ridiculously high defense, and the Mana Sword just has ridiculously high attack power. So to overcome that defense. So you can always defeat it. So I'm going to be curious whether spells are actually going to be used here.
It looks like Freeze is going to go out. Also, shout outs to the Lufia 2 regular battle theme for the final fight. That's curious. There we go.
I like that theme. Oh well, he's not even letting the Mana Beast settle, huh?
I can't even see the Mana Beast.
Nope, me neither.
It's going really well.
Oh yeah,
2,220 HP. Oh, so you can hit him at any point. Okay.
While he's flying back, if it's stationary in the background, you can no longer hit it. So you actually need to... He needs to cast the last set of spells here pretty quickly. So yeah, you can't just knock it out and then you wait until we win, I suppose, because the mana beast is not done until it lands and then starts exploding. Also, he's actually going to be a little bit short on MP because he needs to deal, I think, 201 more damage. Oh, actually, a bit more.
He fears Luna.
Really?
Yeah, I just said it.
Oh, wait. That's a change in the randomizer too, isn't it?
As in the mana beast weakness.
Yeah, in the vanilla game, leaf or, well, tree element is not actually weak against anything in particular.
Yeah.
Or strong for that matter. But in the randomizer, you can use Luna in order to deal extra damage against, well, leaf. I forgot about that part. That's true. There's a lot of little changes and also bug corrections here to explore. But also a lot of things are just kept true to the original, which is kind of neat too. So yeah, you do not need physical attacks, it looks like. And Surface is probably going to knock it out very soon.
So as we have coming to the end of this fight for Surface, Solar Cell finishing up his Thunder Gygus and jumping into the final boss as well. We'll probably see a similar strat from him. Maybe his physical concept wasn't gonna...
You know, the catch is if you use physical attacks against the mana beast, you have to wait until it lands, which I suppose you have to anyways for it to explode right here, and that's GG for Surface.
I believe the time is going to be when the dude at the end, well, when the characters come together, that's when they're done. And time for Surface.
GG, well played. So athletes seem to just kind of let them run all over the place, but they managed to surprisingly closely converge on the last thing they needed. So that was pretty neat.
Yeah. It was there was some nice back and forth between what was going on for all of the characters, but yeah, very, very close at the end of it. It's looking to be like maybe like I think based on how long this bit here is, probably about like a couple of minutes. Although it seems like the damage being done by Solar Cell isn't quite as much as Surface is putting out at this point. So hopefully he can get that quick kill as well.
Just throw a thunder into the distance. He does have the critical hit lined up on the boy. So once again, the characters are blinking in various colors and facets. That is because they basically displace the buffs or well, debuffs that they have. The boy kind of going in rainbow colors means that he has a lunar boost or lined up, basically a guaranteed critical hit that he will be able to use as soon as he attacks. So he will probably charge up his weapon here and try to deal a lot of damage. So let's see how much that's gonna be.
Big crit coming out from Solar, very nice.
Yeah, it's decent, but probably not quite worthwhile. He also wants to have the boy not closest to the mana beast, otherwise he will be the one targeted by lucid beams. He will have to cast significantly less spells total though compared to Surface, so maybe this fight might be overall a little bit faster. Oh, that got up so.
Yeah, unfortunate timing. When enemies cast magic, we haven't really talked about this. It's like, or maybe we did, but I've just forgotten because my memory is like a sieve. But when enemies cast magic, there's like a window of invulnerability that you have to kind of get through. There's the kill though, and
look at the one cycle.
Yeah, another GG for both our players here. Again, yeah, roughly about 2 minutes between these two. Really, really close race for that showcase. Yeah, and I think with that. And boom, that is 2 completed runners. And that is 1 showcase for the Secret of Mana open world randomizer. Dunzoed. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool.
Yeah,
again, sorry.
No, actually, that's kind of all I wanted to say. I thought that was really neat because, once again, originally I didn't think that open world randomizer could be much of a thing in Secret of Mana, but it actually looks really nice. So for anybody who wants to pick it up, make sure to check out Moppleton's website, which is secretofmana.ancientcave.blogspot.com, because originally the randomizer was set up to be like, well, Lufia Ancient Cave, which is just randomized floors, but there's a lot more to that randomizer now, so it's also this one. Highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, there are four modes, I believe. Yeah, so the Ancient Cave, as we mentioned, this open world, a vanilla randomizer where you go through the games vanilla, like progress, but then everything about it is different. And also a boss rush, which is still, I believe, in the early stages of kind of like bug fixing and stuff, because I remember it was used a little bit ago, but now it's kind of like again being worked on. But yeah, so we have these 4 modes, and this is kind of the one that's really taking off. The tracker is also available as well, either on that website and on the Discord too. The tracker you're seeing here is not that one. This is one that has been provided by Speed Gaming as well, but the one that Menblock created as well is kind of like in that similar vein. But yeah, it has like a bunch of extra features that you can kind of edit and create to kind of like suit your seed. So really, really cool stuff. Trying to think about what else to talk about, really. You've gone through a lot of it, a fair bunch of it.
If we could get these two for maybe an interview or just kind of thoughts of how it works, or considering that they have probably been the most active of most of the people to just do runs, maybe have their quick thoughts on it. That would be nice.
I think if maybe we can ping them a message and be like, "Oi, stop being over there and be over here instead." Join us. I mean, that's only if they're able to. Actually, are they in that channel? But yeah, it'd be nice to kind of talk to them about it, because, like, you know, we're talking about how they routed these out and what they did, but they're the ones who actually did it, so we can kind of get their thoughts behind it. Prioritizing particular areas and, you know, making sure those picks and checks are, you know, always going. But yeah.
Alrighty, I think SolarCell is going to join us here. I'm going to drag him up real quick.
Yeah, SolarCell is there, and we can get Mr. Surface as well. How's it going, Solar?
Oh, it's going well. That was a close one. I'm so glad it was that close.
Yeah,
man.
Really neat. I agree. Basically, you kind of both checked different things, but then more or less at the end, you just more or less got the last thing you needed at a very similar time, slightly apart from each other, and then it was just a decently close race overall, so it was nice.
Hello there. I'm here as well. I'm the one who provided the seed.
Hello, Menblock. Yes, we can be angry at you for this seed.
Yes. What did you think of the seed? Was this a typical Menblock seed?
This was different from what I'm used to playing. I'm used to getting one of the characters a little earlier than that. So to have to hunt for the sprite in the chest wherever he might have been, that was it was interesting. It kind of, I had to develop a different strategy than what I've been doing in the past.
So you were, I noticed something that towards the end, you kind of like went back to upgrade a weapon and kind of went with the whole like the moon energy setup, you know, running forward, using it and casting it in the background to kind of get as much as you could towards the end. So obviously you wanted to kind of go for the more physical approach towards, you know, for that final fight.
Right.
We're kind of looking at both, because Surface went for a purely magic ending and kind of did like the magic chaining on. Can we mute if we're typing, please?
Oh, sorry.
And yes, right. No, that's fine. So like Surface was going for the magic and chaining that and spending a lot more time in the menu. So there's that question mark of, was it slightly faster, you feel, to kind of go for that physical one because you can get bigger hits at the end with less menu time?
So I'm used to doing full magic if I have 7 seeds, and all the past seeds I've done, I've had 7 at least going into the final fight, and even then you're only doing maybe 200-300 damage with 7 seeds. So only having 5 seeds, I didn't think that was really going to be worth it. And when I come to find out, I was only doing about 100-150 damage per Thunderbolt on the Mana Beast. So I figured, okay, I'll do what I can, because if you have 7 seeds, you can kill the dragon before he is able to cast Wall, because he has a hitbox while he's flying around.
That is true, actually. Yes, because you only had 5 seeds in the end, and Surface had 6. It had a level bonus on you. Yeah, because Surface grabbed the Dryad seed as well, and I believe you only had.
That was at a medium place. So
hello,
hey,
Surface.
Surface is here.
Thanks, so that's GG, man. That was very close from what I can gather.
It was 2 minutes, 2 minutes 10 seconds apart. It was 1:43 and 1:45.
When you guys got to doubles, it was like less than 10 seconds.
That's awesome.
So here's the thing. So
Yeah.
I noticed one thing, and you did it, and I mentioned it before, and then you did it like a little bit after I mentioned it. As soon as Gnome was grabbed, Surface was using it, and I think you kind of forgot about speed up for like a little bit.
We don't really have to talk about that if you don't want to.
Okay, sure. Fair enough.
The
Good
first
point.
time I used it was in the Grand Palace. I went, oh, I could have been using this for how long now?
And also,
It's
you guys forgot Pandora hint.
No.
Yeah.
Both.
No. Oh my god.
Yeah. The hint is a really interesting element of it, obviously, because how much we have available to us and how much we have to check. How much do you prioritize those hints, and how much do you mind just winging it?
I have tried doing a race before with no hints, and I got absolutely demolished. The hints can be, apart from the fact that there's a few troll hints, obviously incorporated by Moppleton, like Saban's Bum Rush and all the other things from other games. The ones that do count can make all the difference. Because I was sort of flying around for a little while, then I realised I actually had all the hints for Go mode. I hadn't even clocked it yet in my hints, so I just dropped everything I was doing to go and get the Luna. The girl and everything else. I knew girl was Fire Palace because she was locked behind 2 orbs, the only location she could have been. So when I realised, I thought, oh god, if Solar already gone to Pure Lands to go and get Salamando, to go and get Gnome, I literally thought I'd lost about 10-15 minutes at one point. But
you get too much into your head, my gosh. The hints were really useful for that because it told us that the sprite was in the chest. So if we did not know that, and we didn't even know the girl was behind the Fire Palace, but there was a lot of this leads to that, leads to that, leads to that in this seed. So we could have been hunting all over the place, trying to fight stuff with the boy only for a long time.
When I cleared Dark Palace without the Dark Seed, and then I realised that Doppelgangers was the only thing left, I thought, is it going to be locked behind the Dark Seed in some random location without no hint? I thought we were going to have to do a Tango Cave, Sunken Continent, anything else that hadn't been cleared yet.
About.
I was the same.
I went to Doppels before trying to finish the Dark Palace. I'd gone there first just to pick up those 2 chests looking for the sprite, and then I had noped out of there. I was worried about that.
The big problems in the seed were Earth Palace for Gnome.
Yes.
And Doppels for Luna, which is why I included hints for both of those. To troll you even more when you didn't get it.
It was a good seed to run. Better than the last couple I've run because I actually managed to find Shade without looking for it for over an hour, so I felt a lot more.
I'm glad
happy with
it up. I had a little bit of a power flicker here in the Tropicalo vanilla fight, so I'm glad everything stayed up aside from the console restarting.
Oh, that's what.
And also, also you guys both got around the time I playtested for, so that's quite good.
Brilliant.
That was like the optimal time. You guys were
said you had like
so
140 when
perfect
you
on
playtested
routing.
it, right?
Yeah, you guys were perfect on routing.
So a question I wanted to kind of ask as well, or rather a thing, if you wanted to share for the viewers who are watching this, who may be seeing, the randomizer for the first time and are interested in doing their own seed. What if there's like maybe 1 or 2 tips that you kind of like recommend for a newer runner in terms of like things to prioritize or things to be mindful of when getting into a new seed?
Gnome really reduces the amount of time spent traversing areas now. That's if you get a hint for Gnome and you have the girl or know where the girl is, I would prioritize getting that early because not just the speed element, but just charging up your weapon attacks as well. If you pair it with Luna with Moon Energy, which I didn't do at all this run because I didn't get Luna till late, but Luna with Luna Energy, Moon Energy from Luna coupled with speeds up from Gnome is so powerful in this. That you can be hit for sort of 500 plus every attack, just from a normal attack.
Get to learn hint locations.
So I've been racing with Surface and Menblock a little more recently. Those 2 have been racing a lot more, and I think Menblock came up with this path. They both have their kind of path they like to go through.
Yeah,
all the 3 hints you can get in about 10 minutes worth of time.
Yeah, we've got it down to about 10 minutes for every hint in the game, except for the ones obviously at Doppelgangers because it's so out of the way, and most of the time you haven't got the whip at the start of the game, so that's more of a case of you get the hints there if you're forced into that route. But there is some really easy locations early on. Gaia's Navel, Pandora, and Empire they're all sort of fruitful locations and have a lot of items for minimum work. So places like Fire Palace, Ice Country, Sunken Continent, they take a lot longer. Matango Cave. So there's some sort of optimal areas to go at the start of the race to get some sort of items to go, and then after that you're set to go. Then you're just hunting your game mode items.
In general, all the items in the Potos area are always good.
Yeah,
every single one of them.
one thing I
Generally.
kind of picked up early is that I was mentioning it during the run is that like Pandora is like the 6 chests
Yeah,
as well as
that
the girls'
is-
chests, like, ooh,
Pandora's
good.
loaded. And
Right,
also,
so good.
one more tip: buy candy like after one boss.
We started
Candy
with
and
the chest to
medical
give us
herbs.
money, so I don't know what Surface did, but I immediately bought candy just for the next few bosses
Yeah.
I was gonna have to fight.
You need it in Pandora because there's often a dragon.
Yeah, the Pandora boss. As long as you've got some candy, you can normally damage cancel out of the attacks. And obviously, having 7 candies, which you can buy all in one go now in the randomizer, is a massive help at the start of the sort of run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough.
It was good.
So
Enjoyed it.
obviously, I think we had like a bit of a longer block, but we do want to kind of make sure that we can, press on and not kind of take up too much time of OSGs. So any kind of like last thoughts, any kind of last words for everyone, and to each other, or anything you just want to get out?
How about thank you to you and Yagamoth, Bowie, for commentating
Yes.
this run.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. We hope we did a good job.
Also,
You did a good job.
I'd like to give a shout out to Memblock for designing the tracker, but obviously mainly for Moppleton for actually inventing the randomizer, and anyone else that's helped him sort of develop it over the last few years that he's been working on it. I think he has something like 16 years Secret of Mana experience in the code, so he's been working on this a very long time, and to have the sort of the honor to be able to play it. If anyone's played Secret of Mana as a kid or just sort of recently, they'll know how much of an amazing game it is, and the randomizer just sort of keeps it fresh and gives it these different difficulty options and stuff. So shout out to Mobberton for actually giving us the opportunity to actually be able to play the randomizer.
Yeah, well, the work Moppleton puts in is absolutely amazing. Also, response times are great.
Yeah, he makes about 7 updates a day. He's really on the ball, so that's not an exaggeration. If you know
He even made
Moppleton, you know
updates
he's busy.
during multiple races.
We've actually had 3 updates during one race before. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's about time because the portal is next.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we have to move on. In
Thanks,
terms
guys.
of what's coming up next, we have at 10 o'clock, so like now, basically, we have to head out, and Portal is up next on Speed Gaming. So again, thanks to everyone. Thanks to Yaga for joining me, the runners, Solar and Surface, Menbot the Block for doing the tracker, and of course, Moppleton for making this entire thing, which is awesome. And obviously, thanks to the guys at Speed Gaming and Bonsai as well for basically making all of this happen. So we hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next time. Join the Discord if you're interested, and we'll have some more adventures in the land of Mana. But until next time, guys, cheers. Stay classy.
Thank you.
See ya.